podcast, episode number 81. You join myself, Chris, alongside my wonderful two co-hosts, the techie teacher himself, Mr. Tom.
Hello. I'm sporting some new frames today, actually. Neither of you picked up on that pre-show. No, I mean, it's glasses, isn't it?
It's hard to tell.
Didn't really expect that.
I don't even think in person I would, to be fair, either. So sorry about that. And
that's right. I'm just picking up on a 2020 vision today. I can see
2021 vision.
2021 vision. Thank you.
That 0.1 better. And below him, also rocking his spectacles, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
I'm also wearing different glasses, actually.
Oh well.
These are the ones I usually wear.
The only glasses I have is a nice pint of unbranded,
non-disclosed brand of beverage.
Yeah.
Beverage. It's not an energy drink.
Okay,
that's the one thing.
It still gives you energy.
It's slightly less sugar than I would have otherwise had. You're joining us, of course, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 81 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, and we have a great show lined up for you this week. We're going to be talking about all of the amazing titles that dropped from the Stadia Makers program this past week. We're going to be talking Stadia showing up at E3 this year. Maybe. And also some Darkside detective confusion, because we've had some games drop and there's a new one coming out, but we were supposed to get it for free. Apparently not anymore. So we're going to be talking about all that and much, much more in this week's episode of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. But before we get into all that exciting, juicy news, a couple of pieces of housekeeping for you lovely listeners and viewers out there. Number one, our YouTube memberships. That's a little ringtone for the YouTube memberships. Our YouTube memberships are live, everybody. So our channel's been working away, toiling away on this for some time, and our lovely patrons have been asking for this too. But it's live, so if you go down below, the area in which you usually click like, subscribe, and if you haven't done all that rigmarole, you know about it. There'll now be a little blue font icon that says join, and if you click that lovely little join symbol, join, it will take you to our membership program, and we've got several tiers. We've got Founders, Bronze, Silver and Gold for you wonderful people out there. If you want to support the channel, support us three gentlemen and Stadia that little bit more, you can do that by clicking join. And a few key bullet points you probably want to make clear is that the content across all tiers is for everybody. We don't want to gatekeep. We don't want to paywall any of our content. You will still get amazing content early, like Richie's and ours Sounds of Stadia SideQuest show. You'll still get that 5 days early across all tiers. Tom, we've got some lovely badges by your design as well.
We do. Absolutely. Yeah, so we've got what you'll see is as part of being a member, you'll gain perks such as you're getting some emojis that we're going to be working on behind the scenes, but also you get a little membership icon for when any of the live chats you join in. So when we premiere a video or when you join into any of our sort of like Thursday night live streams, for example, you'll be able to see next to your name in chat, you'll have a little icon, all based on these lovely things, our Stadia controllers. The whole idea is the longer that you are a subscriber as well, you'll see that those controllers essentially evolve. So you'll start off with the nice clearly white controller and you'll move through different tiers depending on how long you support the channel for. But again, down the lines, at the end of the day, what we want to say is we want people to join us at the level that you feel most comfortable at. Like Chris said before, in terms of the content that we're providing, it's open to everybody who is a member as well. So don't feel like you have to jump in at a certain level. It's all down to you, financially, how much you feel is really viable to say, to support us. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all there. It's all there for you to pick and choose. It doesn't mean we're getting rid of Patreon. That still stands. We may phase it out depending on how well either go, but we do feel like the YouTube membership program is easier for everybody because it just uses your Gmail account. And if you're here, you've probably got Gmail already because you play Stadia.
It's a big part of the feedback we got from our patrons. Most of our patrons were asking about YouTube membership from as long as they were subscribed to Patreon, so...
I think it's nice to keep it all in one place, isn't it, really? But at the end of the day, people pick and choose as they want to, so the platforms are open to whichever suits your needs.
Exactly. It's not scary, so head on over, check it out, and we appreciate all the support that you wonderful people give us already. Speaking of things that are scary, we finished, gentlemen, our Resident Evil stream. So we played Resident Evil 7 Biohazard across 4 separate live streams across 2 weeks. We scared ourselves living daylights out of us many, many a times. Me specifically, because I was on the sticks. But we did it. we completed it. Great game. Crazy plot twists and great tie-up of the story at the end. Go check those videos out. They're all available on youtube.com/Sounds of Stadia to watch at your own pleasure with the lights on or off, depending on your preference. You can play games however you want to play games, ladies and gentlemen. And final piece of housekeeping. This coming Thursday, off the back of the Resident Evil live streams, we're bringing you Killer Queen Black. It's a game we've wanted to do for some time, and we're going to have the game developers in the chat with us, and we may have some giveaway codes as well for the title. So check us out this Thursday, 8 p.m. British Standard Time, because it's now summertime. Standard Time? Summertime.
Summertime.
Just click the link and it'll tell you when it starts at your time zone. But we're going to be playing some Killer Queen Black this Thursday on Google Stadia. Right, gentlemen. Time for the show. So, Tom, will you give us the
super sexy special Stadia story segment? Super fast. AKA the news.
The news. That was a very energetic news introduction.
I've been storing it up for today.
All that pent-up energy. So, as we said, a couple of great news stories this week for you. A lot focused on games, a lot focused on gaming conventions, whether they're in the digital world or not. But to start things off, we wanted to give a little rundown of all the titles that were announced. We knew about some of them not so much, some of them surprised people. But to start off with, I've kind of titled them in not in order of like importance, but the ones that we didn't know about first, because they seem like the more interesting titles, because we've discussed the other ones at length. And the biggest one for me, I think, out of all this was a title called Foreclosed, which was rated earlier in the week before the official announcement dropped. But if either of you two haven't checked out Foreclosed yet, the description in the community blog states it is a narrative-driven adventure set in a cyberpunk world filled with action, suspense, and experimental augmentations. Follow the story of Ivan Kapnos, or Evan. Why did I say Ivan?
Ivan.
Ivan. It's because his surname is Kapnos. I felt like Evan was too normal. So
you give him the bit. You think you're assuming he's Russian.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he's in a cyberpunk world. So Evan Kapnos, or Ivan, in this sleek comic book style game, as he unravels the conspiracy behind his identity, Foreclosure, who is responsible and why. So essentially, this is like Minority Report meets cyberpunk, where your kind of actions, everything, it's through comic book style, but it's all played out for you ahead of time. Which is it's very interesting, but the art style looks fantastic. It's very cyberpunk inspired, of course, which most games this last year we've seen are heavily inspired by, whether or not cyberpunk did it for you or didn't if you're playing on the base PS4. Guys, Tom, start with you. Does this game tickle your fancy?
I always like the theme of cyberpunk, really, and just watching through. Lights are out.
Tom's gone into a cyberpunk.
You need to get that neon glow going.
I know I'm being cyber hacked right now. I love the idea of a cyberpunk world. I think the gameplay looks fantastic. It reminds me very much of almost that. It's not quite cell shaded in terms of the art style, but it very much has that almost like comic book esque. Like, did either of you ever play 13 when it originally came out? The sort of like, it was a very comic book esque shooting game. I think it was very recently remastered as well, but hasn't been very critically acclaimed.
Is it Roman numerals 13?
Yes, XIII.
I can picture it now, yeah.
Yes. So I really like that art style, and you don't see a lot of games pushing for that anymore these days, particularly maybe because it did fit a certain sort of time within sort of like the gaming history here. But, Cyberpunk is doing very well at the moment in terms of the sort of setting for games at the moment, isn't it really? I like the idea of augmentations and stuff like that. I was a big fan of things like Shadowrun as well, so it's definitely sort of like one that I'm going to be interested in. And I'm all for these Stadia Makers games, as we'll talk about later on as well. I think that's very much very interesting to see how these games do on the platform, because I believe that a lot of these games may be exclusive to Stadia for the time being, but they may eventually, branch out, and we almost get like a first look or first exclusivity with them here. But from first look, looks good.
Yeah, the kind of Stadia Makers program can't be overlooked for how every one of these games and from the development teams has had a different journey to reach the Stadia Makers program. And we know from some of the other ones we're about to talk to, they've all came through different ways. And I've seen people on Twitter reach out and ask about, can we get this indie game over on Stadia? And I think the Makers program supported that so well that as time goes forward, this is ideally going to incubate indie titles for Stadia in a really supportive and creative way, which hopefully will get a great name for itself. And I'd love Stadia to be the place, like similar to Nintendo Switch has been, and PS4 when that originally launched, where indies just flock to it. If they can get the financial support and the creative backing, why wouldn't you want to put your title on these platforms?
Yeah, I think Stadia offers a lot for indie games, because with the whole gaming on the go, if you get like a Razer Kishi or you get a claw or some description attached to your controller to, or for some games even touchscreen controls, it means that these tend to be smaller titles. People can, when they are go back to commuting to work and stuff, can play these games rather than just getting bombarded with microtransaction mobile games. So I think there's a huge market there. It's why I think done so well on the Switch. But then you're removing the need to carry that second device.
I think it shouldn't be dismissed either about how valuable the Stadia Makers program is from an artistic and creative point of view as well, that it allows a lot of stories to be told that might have otherwise been swept under the rug as well, because obviously we live in a world that's quite saturated by media and saturated by big AAA titles, that sometimes a lot of these smaller devs and publishers don't get the opportunity to tell a story that could be quite successful in there. Typically, it gets washed out by the bigger brands out there, and we know how competitive the gaming industry is in general. So to have essentially a new program at the forefront of the indie scene is fantastic, because it does allow for those people with smaller voices essentially to actually be heard on what would otherwise be, a very crowded marketplace.
And
the artistic merits as well. From what I've heard, Google aren't really putting too many requirements onto the indie scene. So it's not like, okay, yes, we'll give you the money, but you have to do things like this. They're just kind of going, no, you make your game.
Yeah, we get a big thing for me is we can't underestimate how well indie titles have done recently. Look at Hades, just bagged some Game of the Year accolades, and Untitled Goose Game before that. So just because you have just because you have the budget doesn't necessarily mean you're any lesser valued than any of the titles. And if Stadia
all
can
still
pump
games
out these,
we haven't got yet, by the way. All still games we haven't got.
That is true. Yet. But yeah, let's move on to the next title. So that one looks fantastic. That was one of the ones scrolling through the blog post with all the different videos and the trailers that all dropped across on the YouTube channel. That was one artistically and visually that perked my interest. And the second one to do so was Grime. So the description for Grime from Cloverbyte developer: destroy, absorb, grow. Grime is a fast and unforgiving action-adventure RPG in which you crush your foes with living weapons that mutate form and function. Consume your enemy's remains with a black hole to strengthen your vessel as you break apart a world of anatomical horror and intrigue. Now, this one gives me Inside / Little Nightmares vibes. It's very almost claymation, meets Abe's Odyssey almost in a similar way. But it looks really intriguing.
The pacing of it is so much different, because things like Inside or Limbo or things like that, these narrative, they can tend to be like quite slow paced. Even things like Little Nightmares, it's a fairly slow paced game. It's more about solving puzzles, avoiding danger, where this still seems to go, nah, we're going to take something a similar feel to the game, but we're just going to turn up the action knob up to 11.
Yeah. I'm getting big sort of almost Dark Souls-esque vibes from it as well, in terms of the way that the gameplay actually plays out too. Very gritty, very dark, and very almost
grimy.
I was going to go with Lovecraftian in a way as well. It looks very it's quite there's almost like an overlying theme of horror in there. But you are absolutely right. It's very much that sort of like 2D in a 3D world environment, where this 2.5D, I suppose, is what we call it, don't we, really? Where it's still 2D, but with 3D animation and 3D landscapes and so on. But interesting concept with this whole like mechanic of using black holes and so on as well, because it looks like through watching the launch trailer there that we're sort of like absorbing enemy attacks and using them against them too. So it's very very different to anything I've seen before.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they incorporate the black hole mechanics into something like traversal.
Like Portal. Get around.
Well, yeah, I was thinking if you want to get to a higher place, you fire a black hole up there and it pulls you up. And you could almost like cancel black hole and use the momentum to...
It almost looks like his head is the black hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the bullet points they've got, eye-popping surrealism, living weapons, seamlessly swap weapons made of living creatures that mutate form during combat, death-defying combat, punish enemies, parrying attacks, smash them to the ground or even airborne, absorb them to grow your strength as you wage war in a living world, unique progression, and challenge menacing bosses, so there's your Dark Souls element to it, Tom. But yeah, it does seem like over time you're going to maybe steal the powers from the enemies you defeat, and that's going to help your arsenal undertake what you've got up in front of you. But again, the art style is what got me, because it was very, very different from what you probably normally see from an indie title. But very excited to see that one. So there's two biggish ones on my radar right off the bat from the Makers program. Third one up, I'm going to throw this one over to you, Tom, because I think you're probably the biggest fan of the three of us. Jay and Silent Bob, Chronic Blunt Punch.
Absolutely right.
Didn't drop with a trailer, so I had to go look on their website. They've got a full website, chronicbluntpunch.com, if you want to check this one out. And this is for me, at a first look, looks like Street Fighter Scott Pilgrim. But you know a lot more about the Jay and Silent Bob universe, or the Kevin Smith universe as such. How did this catch you on out? Because this is the one that comes with an actual franchise attached to it of all the titles.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pre-existing IP. As you said before, the Kevin Smith sort of filmiverse, I suppose, in a way, really, with the characters of Jay and Silent Bob, who are two very much sort of low lives, I suppose, is the way you describe them. Characters were introduced back in probably like the 90s, I think it was. Two low lives standing outside of a shop, just smoking a bit of cannabis and just sort of like harassing the locals, really. It sort of evolved from there. They created their own sort of comic book franchise of Chronic and Blunt Man, who eventually went on to create. There's a fantastic film, Jay and Silent Bob. The franchise itself is just it's quite well known. If you haven't checked out the movies, go check it out first. But it's sort of like journey. It follows their adventures into traveling to California to try to find out, like, there's a film company that sort of take over their IP of their characters that they created in the comic book that they created to create what's the equivalent of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe of their IP. This game looks like it's very sort of much linked to those films. There is the fact that they use the comic book characters. But as you said before, it's very much sort of a side-scrolling beat-em-up akin to Streets of Rage, more recently, and the likes of Scott Pilgrim as well. I'm always for these side-scrollers as well, so this might be one that's on my list just because I enjoy the characters. I think it's quite fun, and it does look like it sort of ticks a few boxes for me where I feel like we don't have a lot of these side-scrolling beat-em-ups anymore.
It's hard to make a bad one.
It's going to be a pro game.
It's it's an interesting one with side scrolls, because they've done it a few times with like the Power Rangers games and stuff, where you can apply most franchises to a side scroll and beat them up, because all you need is punch, kick, jump, and take any character and give them kind of just an enemy, and it works pretty well. So I'll be interested to see if there is any comic book inspiration that drops in between levels, perhaps. To bring this to life, but the description just literally says a colourful side-scrolling tag team beat 'em up. Players swap back and forth between our heroes and perform specials. I'm sure there's going to be loads of like inside references to his movies and the Kevin Smith universe. 100%.
A game like this is going to lean heavily into the nostalgia, and so it should.
Yeah, 100% should. So it should. So moving away from nostalgia, then we've got a very different, probably the most unique game that we got as part of the Stadia Makers program, and that is She Dreams Elsewhere, which is coming from Studio Sevilla and Whitehorn Games. The description is: She Dreams Elsewhere is a surreal adventure RPG about dreams and the extent to which they mirror reality. You play as Talia, an anxiety-ridden, comatose woman on a journey to confront the nightmares preventing her from awakening, while also finding out how exactly this mess happened in the first place. But some nightmares are harder to confront than others. Very different from all the other games we've just spoke about. It's deeply personal narrative, very thematic focused around kind of, I suppose, life, all the stuff that we probably all deal with in some way, shape or form. For better or for worse, they kind of come through. It's got a couple of new features in, because I don't think this is the first version of the game. I think it originally came out a few years ago, so it might be retweaked for Stadia Makers, I guess. But yeah, very different type of game. Not my type of game, I'll say that much.
I get massive mixed vibes between Undertale here because of the color scheme and the palette that they've used, and that sort of like 8-bit throwback to first gen consoles.
I'd even say not necessarily first gen consoles, because if it's in a lot of it seems in black and white. It reminds me of something you'd expect to play on a Game Boy.
Yeah. But I also, in terms of the narrative, get reminded of an RPG Maker game called To the Moon as well, which was very critically acclaimed too. So it's like one of those sort of very hard-hitting, emotionally driven games, akin to, I suppose, for us on Stadia, it would be like Lost Words in a way, really, where the narrative is very much based on human emotion, human experiences, and so on as well. So I've got a feeling this could be a game that will be rather emotionally tying to a lot of people as well, particularly with people who, I mean, I might find like a lot of emotional ties and stuff like that in there, and then bring on the tears at some point, I imagine, in a way. But we do enjoy those games. We do enjoy them.
I've got a quick correction for you, Chris. I don't believe it's out now. I'm looking at the Steam store now, and it's still planned release date is 2021, but there is a demo available on Steam.
All right, I know that the trailer that was playing had 2018 at the end of it, so unless it's been pushed back drastically over the last 2 or so years, that's all out. That's the only thing that popped up in my mind. Which I was thinking, it's on Stadia Makers, but then it came up on screen saying 2018. I was like, okay, maybe it's not a brand new game then. But thanks for clarifying that, Richie. Yeah. So a bit more of a deeper meaning one. If it's anything like Lost Words, it's certainly going to get those emotions flowing. Yeah. Moving on to the next title that we got released, which we've knew about for some time. We discussed it a little bit further back, but Death Carnival. Completely opposite side of the spectrum in terms of emotions. This one is just rage and destruction, taking out many things. And this is one that's got me excited. Twin stick shooter, akin to Dead Nation, if anyone's played that, or Alien Nation, or Helldivers. Very, very similar to that. The devs are quite active over on Twitter, so go check their channel and page out if you need to for a bit more insight. But this game just looks like absolute chaos. Weapons, online multiplayer mayhem, and a world broken by war, humanity endures in a few overcrowded cities. To escape their bleak reality, many turn to televised combat sports, the most popular being Death Carnival. In this deadly game show, contestants must battle against hordes of monsters and machines for fame and fortune, live on TV. Cross-platform, we should mention as well, coming with that, which is going to be huge for its online 4-player co-op. It's got PvP, top-down arcade combat, looks absolutely gruesome, but all the more fun at the same time, gentlemen. I can't wait for this. This is definitely on my radar, this one. What do you two think?
Great stuff. I think I said before that when I saw this game, it wasn't the top of my list from the games that it was originally announced with, but it does look, out of the ones that we've seen so far, it does look like it could be the most engaging and probably the kind of game that you could jump into and you can just find yourself playing for quite a bit of time with literally action from the get-go. No real sort of like lag in between gameplay as there with these twin stick shooters.
Yeah, this Thursday night stream written all over it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. For me, twin stick shooters are not really games that I particularly enjoy on myself, but when you're playing either on the couch with one of your friends or we're playing on stream, they can be an absolute blast. So that's where that's why I'm interested in this game for. Yeah, just sitting here on a Thursday night playing with you two and the audience.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of blasts in that game as well by looking at the theme of it.
Yes, They certainly will be.
There wasn't a pun intended, but
there will be in there. Yeah. And wrapping up with a few games we've already spoke about on the podcast, so we won't go too in depth with these ones. But we got update on Figment 2, Creed Valley, the sequel, coming out imminently. Thankfully, as part of that, we also are expecting the original Figment. Actually, is the original Figment game out already?
I think it is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those where we get caught between announcements, ESRB ratings, sequel talk, and it's kind of like, because the store's so weirdly laid out, I don't feel like I've ever scrolled past it in the Stadia store, even when checking like sales and such.
Yeah.
Is it there? Can we confirm to our audience right now? Figment.
Checking right now.
Figment is out.
Confirm.
You can confirm it is there. Great. Now, if only we had a search bar to type the letter F and quickly narrow down the search field. That would be so convenient, people over at Stadia. So great. We're getting the sequel to that, Figment 2, Creed Valley, coming fall 2021. We've knew about that some time. Little puzzle game, very focused around kind of music and carnival-esque themes. Bit of fun to have. Again, not really one of my wheel. That's the problem with some of these indie games. They're so niche, they don't hit that kind of wide spectrum audience, and it's very much either take it or leave it, I find. With a lot
I think
of
if it was in my library and I was in the right mood and it was like, I just want to play like an interesting indie game that I could jump into having a good time with it. But I think with a lot of these games, it's more about having the time to give it a chance to show it what it can do.
Yeah, and the great thing with these being on kind of the first bout of Stadia Makers programs is they're going to get all the attention, whereas in maybe 3 years' time, there might be bigger titles that kind of take up the oxygen space in the room. Other titles we know about, Tom, one of your favourite ones, Merrick's Market, has been officially announced. We've seen them on Twitter confirm that they were in talks, coming soon. Again, we've said before, similar to Overcooked, but you're in a market. Yeah, I know you want to say it, Tom. Go on, do your impression.
It's Merrick's Market!
There it is.
I'm sorry, folks.
Got some voiceover work coming down the pipeline for that one.
Absolutely.
The kind of other one that we've already spoke about, which we are very, very intrigued by, was 100 Days. Officially confirmed. It was confirmed over on their Twitter when they released the trailer. Now we've got official Stadia confirmation. This is your vineyard wine simulating game, which we keep forgetting a name of, but we'll refer to as the wine game.
Yeah, the wine game.
We've got some great thoughts for a live stream with that one. Maybe pop open a bottle of red and manage a farm, I guess. Go through the seasons.
Let's make a vineyard together while drinking our wines.
I mean, we've got a podcast together. Why not start a vineyard? At least we can all get drunk for free.
It's a natural progression from a video game podcast to starting a vineyard.
Yeah, of course it is. Take your winery to the top. So that we'll definitely probably talk about this war a lot closer. It's really good. And again, it's great to see we're getting more simulation style games coming to Stadia because we're getting so much variety, but those PC kind of RTS games I feel like we're still missing, and 100 Days definitely fits that little gap. Kind of the Little Big Workshop, Tom. You've ploughed loads of hours into that game.
Oh yes.
Just because there's something soothing about just going through the seasons and managing your business
coming as well. That's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, Humankind. You still got the pre-order for that, right?
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Fantastic.
And the kind of final one we'll talk about before we move on to the next story is Skyclimbers. Now, this has been touted around. It was a Kickstarter. The Stadia community took it under their wing very much and pushed this into the community that we need to support these smaller titles coming across. They smashed the Kickstarter campaign. Tom, you're one of the Kickstarter members, and I think we'll spend a bit of time talking about this now because it's now officially out there. I think I've seen people from the Stadia team tweet about how great the team is over with Skyclimbers. And now we've got an official announcement. So Paratope are doing wonderful things to really get this game out in the public eye, and I can't wait. I'm getting more excited for it now, and I think it's an official reality. It's not just all talk on Kickstarter and such. It's officially in the Stadia Makers program. I'm excited.
I love the background behind this game coming to Stadia because I don't think it was originally planned for Stadia. It's like the Stadia community encountered the game and decided, no, we want this game, and we made it happen.
It's amazing what happens when a community pulls together. I think from the original get-go, the idea was that it would be coming to I believe it was just cloud-based platforms, but you are right that the Stadia community reached out and very much made it or raised it to the attention of the Stadia business development team.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, that's it. It got enough backing from the Stadia community that the Stadia team reached out to the devs, and them conversations obviously went well. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what is Skyclimbers? Well, Skyclimbers is very much this sort of like open world. It's almost essentially, it could be described in a strange way as like a sandbox game where you have so many different ways you could approach it. It's a very ambitious project. So I think that's why there's a lot of hype around it. But at the same time, there's also a sort of, reluctance to want to delve too deep into it because it can be very many things. It can almost be like a resource management game where you can build and collect armies to fight against each other, or you almost even have like a Monster Hunter-esque Pokemon type game where you can go around playing as a character in a world, following one of many different RPG tropes and archetypes like warriors, mages, rangers, and the likes, to hunt, collect creatures in the wild, and have them as your companions. Not only that, you can even actually build your own towns, your own cities, whether that is built from pre-existing templates. So let's say you want to put down a fountain or an inn or something, you can select it from a radial menu after collecting the resources. Or if you want to build your own building based on your own design, where you want to place down individual floor tiles, again, you can do exactly that. I think one of the big things about Skyclimbers that's really sort of had people's or caught people's attention is as well this ability that you are able to sort of roam the world and explore the world, which is a very fantastical sort of world with flying creatures, or creatures that can swim, creatures that can traverse the land quite quickly, in a fully 3D landscape, customizing your characters, meeting up with your friends, or battling in PvP. It's a very ambitious game, and I'm very excited for it. But I think what people do need to realize with this is that we are quite a way off it arriving on the platform. It is probably not going to arrive with us until early 2022.
Yeah.
But now that it is part of the Stadia Makers program, I think what we will see is we'll see a lot more interaction from a Stadia perspective, and maybe even see some of those early demos or early builds that might allow people to actually experience and feedback on this. And I can assure you that as soon as I get into the alpha, of which is being a part of a Kickstarter, I will be getting my hands on it when the alpha comes out to PC. I'll get some footage, I'll record it, and even though it won't be recorded on Stadia, as we know the game is coming to Stadia, I'll release it on the channel. Awesome. Easy as.
The biggest thing for me is it's getting kind of that Valheim hype, where it's very similar. I've seen people this week on the internet make like a scale model of the Eiffel Tower within Valheim, just using the assets and the building tools that are there. Resource management, gathering, but someone could just come along and destroy the Eiffel Tower if they had the right mind to. So it's living in that digital world.
It's that Minecraft sort of risk, should we say.
But loads of excitement, and you're totally right. I'd imagine with it being back so much, I wouldn't be surprised with it being arguably so far out that we see some kind of beta, similar to what we got with Humankind, actually, where we got that early access build model specifically designed for the cloud, where we can jump in and play around, and it doesn't impact the devs working on the game at the same time. They could get a good idea of the audience and the crowd, because clearly the game exists to a core level. We've seen them showcase on their Twitter channel nearly every week. They show something new off. Hell, they made the Stadia Phoenix within the game like 2 weeks after it was confirmed as coming. So they've got very creative, active tools, and I can't wait to see what this game kind of evolves into with the audience and with the backing of the Stadia Makers program. So exciting stuff to keep your eyes out for, gentlemen. Loads of games coming. The final game I wanted to leave till the end, because it does go on to one of our next talking points, is that of Darkside, the Darkside Detective. Fumble in the Dark was announced too, and the one reason I want to highlight this one is we'll talk about this game, then we'll talk about the weirdness surrounding it too. Is it's coming from Spooky Doorway, cool name for a developer. Do enjoy that. It's fun to say. Darkside Detective. It's very much a kind of, I don't want to say like a crime thriller, classic detective stuff that goes on, but in a very beautiful pixelated art style. This is the sequel, so Darkside Detective Fumble in the Dark is a serial adventure game where you help a duo of investigators crack the supernatural cases and puzzles in the city of Twin Lakes. Whether it's a noise complaint due to the ritual performing neighbours of Mothman loitering around, not Man-Bat from the Resident Evil stream, guys, Mothman loitering around the porch light at night, Detective McQueen and his sidekick Officer Patrick Dooley are just a text box away. Point and click your way through 6 new cases as you get to the bottom of each mystery. So it is very much a classic point and click, almost like a LucasArts point and click adventure, remade in modern design. Excited for this game, looks cool. This week we got the exciting news that the Darkside Detective Season 1 game has arrived on Stadia. That arrived on Wednesday, I want to say, just gone. I think we got the makers on the Tuesday, then the game came out Wednesday or Thursday, at some point throughout that. And we knew about this for some time. Game looks great, game looks fun. But we knew about Season 1 coming because when they announced the sequel a few months back now, we were told, gentlemen, that it was going to be a pro game. And it dropped this week on Stadia, and it's not a pro game. So my kind of question to you guys is, announcing pro games so ahead of time that these deals weren't met, how is this being marketed by? Is this like an only on Stadia kind of thing? So
I think it might be, yeah.
to give you the updates then. So the update from Stadia Source, of course, your number one source for all Stadia gaming news reviews. I don't know the official rigmarole for that thing, but that's where we get all this news from. The CEO of Spooky Doorway, the team behind the Darkside Detective series, had previously confirmed to the very own Adam, part of Stadia Source team, or prior, that the game's first season would be coming to Stadia Pro. And we knew this because it was part of their own Stadia community blog a few months back. You can click the link, go read it, and it definitively says, yes, it's going to be part of Stadia Pro. Updates too came from Grace, obviously wonderful community manager of part of Stadia. She confirmed over on Reddit that Season 1 will not be coming to Stadia Pro title when it launches on April the 8th. So she tagged it saying, "Hi folks, thanks for flagging this. I can confirm the Darkside Detective won't be included in Stadia Pro when it launches this Thursday. Our This Week on Stadia blog post has the latest information on the specific store pricing. It did launch with a pro discount sale, we should say that. However, gentlemen, this goes back to kind of putting the cart before the horse kind of thing, in my opinion. But I can't imagine, because it's a small game, arguably this doesn't really cause that many problems. But being told you're getting something included with your subscription to then not be is a weird...
The developers have told us that it was coming to Pro as well, which is odd.
It could be a misunderstanding of what they actually perceive to be Stadia Pro, though, whether it actually just means
like everyone else.
I mean, if we go way back to like the early days of Stadia, when there was all these issues between identifying what the Stadia Free and the Stadia Pro difference was, Stadia Base even. Let's go back to that terminology. There could be a slight misunderstanding there, or when they say Stadia Pro, are they referring that it's going to come straight with a sale? There's a lot of misconception there, but I do agree with you that it is one of these things that I feel like the exact details and the exact wording of these things should be fleshed out before you actually release the product.
It might have been the developers even speaking out of turn. It may have been slated as a pro game, but if the contracts aren't signed, if you spoke too early, and then for whatever reason they decided not to go with it.
Yeah, so
or is it more insight into the whole idea that we've discussed before, that contractually, maybe that when the game is released on Stadia, do they actually have to sign some sort of clause that essentially says that the game should be made available to go pro at some point within the future as well? And there could be some misunderstanding contractually as to whether that meant immediately or whether it means down the line at some point.
Yeah, it might just be too early, because the statement from the community blog does actually say, because it's in line with Figment, so much like Figment, we're also bringing Darkside Detective Season 1 directly to Stadia Pro ahead of the launch of Darkside Detective Season 2. Get to know the spooky hilariousness world of Detective McQueen before the sequel drops.
Yeah,
now,
interesting.
Now I'm reading that out loud. That sounds like we were supposed to get Figment for Pro as well. Where's the Figment part? Oh, we're there. Well, as a special gift to Stadia Pro subscribers, the first Figment will be shipping directly into Stadia Pro ahead of the launch of Figment, Creed Valley. So keep an eye out. So was that two games then?
We did get Figment as Stadia Pro.
Did we?
Yes.
Yeah, I just double checked.
Right, so that one worked.
Yeah.
So I actually have Figment myself. I just clearly it's lost in my library of games already now without a search functionality.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But it's so weird because it's still in their blog article. They haven't gone back and corrected it, so there is still like a post that says you're getting it for Stadia Pro. I do think it's similar to what Tom's saying, where the dates may have got the wires crossed, and then it's maybe next month.
The thing that gives me that sort of idea that that could potentially be the underlying miscommunication or misunderstanding is one thing we haven't touched on recently is there was another game that I follow quite closely that we've now got in Stadia, which is Terraria. In amongst their sort of like monthly updates of when they say like what's happening with the Terraria, there was a line within one of the posts that did say that the game could come to Stadia Pro at some point in the future, which is what led me to believe that maybe it is part of the clause here. But again, this is all just speculation on my part. No hard evidence to go by.
So we all kind of feel like there's just some sort of miscommunication between the developers and Stadia, and the understanding probably of the contracts, and he's probably spoke out of turn by accident.
Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah.
So my guess is from this is that the Darkside Detective will be free on Pro the month prior to the sequel launching. So when we get a date for Fumble in the Dark, Pro was probably intended to be a Pro because it says play it ahead of Season 2.
Yeah.
So my guess is it will drop on Pro before. So whenever we get it on Pro, Season 2 is going to probably drop the following month in the way it's written.
So what you're basically saying, Chris, and to all of the Sands of Stadia fans out there is don't buy Darkside Detective Season 1 because it is coming to Pro.
Oh, actually, scratch that because the Fumble in the Dark's got a release date of April 15th. So by the time you listen to this, even this week, the sequel may be out.
All right.
So that's even weirder then. It'll go Pro eventually, maybe. But it's very much only on Stadia thing. But I wanted to draw attention to it because imagine if this happened to Ark Survival Evolved, which we were told we're getting Pro. Imagine if this was Ark that came out and it wasn't on Pro. And people go, well, on the community blog and on the Good Stuff event, you said it was coming to Pro. And then it doesn't. But it's actually going to happen several months later. That's some marketing that needs clearing up.
This is it. Once you've said something publicly, I think you kind of have to. Either you need to be open and honest about backtracking if things have changed, or you have to follow through.
Yeah. Now, this is obviously flying under the radar because of the nature of being an indie development thing. Could you imagine the current state of journalism out there if they got hold of this and the headline would be Stadia doesn't release promised games on Pro or something like that? Promised games denied to paying subscribers. It just writes itself. If you're listening, terrible journalist out there, don't quote us on anything.
Yeah.
But again, if this was Ark, it would be a totally different scenario.
Yeah.
But evidently the purchasing Darkside Detective for like £8 doesn't blip on the radar as much. But
True.
It's one of those marketing things that probably just needs a little bit more tightening up on the messaging and making sure that stuff is fully signed off, just in case. Just in case.
Just in case.
That's it. I think it's like you don't until the contract's signed and everything's confirmed. Just that's when I think you keep play things close to your chest. Once you've got them contracts signed, then I think that's when you can start publicising more.
Exactly. But that brings us, gentlemen, to an end of our Stadia Makers programme titles. Lots of exciting games. Some big, some small, some different. Some where you kill people with a giant death carnival tractor with guns and spikes on it.
And some delicious.
And some delicious and tasty, exactly. Do we think this 100 Days game only allows you to use red wine?
No, surely not. Surely there's got to be all different kinds of
white wine.
wine.
The white wine and the rosé DLC.
Yeah.
White wine.
White wine DLC. What's your preference, gentlemen? I'm actually more partial to red than the others.
I am much more of a red man myself.
I like red and white, but it depends what I'm feeling at the time. I wouldn't usually go for
thirsty.
Red. Yeah.
No, wine is really quench your thirst.
I tend to prefer red, but if I'm having like a nice chicken or something, I'll go for white.
You're an accompaniment kind of guy.
I think just some wines go better with some dishes. Like
they do.
The red is dangerous though, because red it can be sat on the coffee table next to you and you just keep topping your wine glass up. White you have to get up and go to the fridge.
Yeah, that is a good point. That red pairs with a steak very nicely. Yeah. None of us rosé men then.
No.
Yeah, didn't think so. Right, next up, next big story is kind of the biggest story of the week, arguably outside of the games, is that E3, gentlemen, is returning this year. They've confirmed it over on Eurogamer. Following reports, E3 will be returning this year as a digital event. Probably the right thing to do. We've seen a couple of different conventions come out this year already and say, like, we're going ahead with a massive public thing, and any person or company right now trying to organise a gig with even just over a few hundred people, call me crazy, gentlemen, but I don't quite vibe with that just at this moment in time just yet. There's still kind of this
not quite there yet.
This thing going on in the world, like we want to make sure it's done and dusted before we even consider returning to a massive warehouse with thousands upon thousands of arguably sweaty people walking around in.
I mean, we are talking about the video games industry, and I don't mean to sort of put a label on it, but we can be relatively sweaty.
It's a very sedentary hobby.
That's true. That is true. But looking at E3 then, they've announced that the Entertainment Software Association, also known as the ESA, have officially confirmed that E3 2021 will be an online-only affair. It will be free to watch. So it's not going to be gate kept, which they've only just opened up. Well, they had only just opened up E3 to the public in 2020, and then it all went to shit. So that kind of... Don't blame them, though. It wasn't because of that. It's going to take place between 12th to the 15th of June. It's going to return as a reimagined, all-virtual event, which is going to allow developers to showcase their latest games. And this year, obviously, we saw last year, we covered a couple of them. Every company under the sun branched out and did their own digital event. We covered Ubisoft's Forward, we covered Square Enix even just a few weeks back. Ubisoft, there's so many of them all tried their own
IGN Summer of Gaming, it's like
Summer Games Fest.
It was a bit of a nightmare because it kind of stretched E3 out over like 3 months, and you didn't know when was going to drop and where. And it's like I like things like Ubisoft Forwards and Nintendo Directs, but there's something nice about E3 where being all condensed into like 3 days.
Yeah. I used to love it in the summer when like E3 coverage would start on IGN, and just any other minute I looked at my phone across that long weekend, I would get some exciting game news drop. Yeah. And you're totally right, Richie. The one that was drawn out with Jeff Keighley and stuff over the summer and IGN's and everyone else's, it just felt like it just was fatiguing. Yeah. It just, you were tired of going like, oh, okay, so what's coming next? And some was bad, some was good. Some news didn't even deserve to be news, but because it was an event, they had to talk about it, and it just, got a bit drawn out.
I almost feel, though, it was inevitable, because E3 just went down, and then suddenly they were scrambling to pull things together, and then where I always felt that this year, regardless of what happened, was going to be a bit more coordinated, a bit more condensed.
Yeah, they had more time to pull things together and organise stuff, because we saw when Sony dropped out of the physical event, people started to question, is E3 even necessary when these companies can host their own? And we've seen it with the digital, and then the pandemic's kind of forced a digital presence upon them, because we theorised when we launched the podcast that Stadia would have been at E3 this year, and this would have been their big opportunity to have a stage presence alongside the big boys and come out with guns blazing and say, this is coming to Stadia, and it didn't happen.
For me, for Stadia, it wasn't necessarily the big thing being having a stage presence. That's good for marketing and getting in people's eyes, but you only who's watching E3, it's your hardcore games, there's people like us.
Yeah,
but it's people on the floor of the conventions getting hands-on with the product. That's
well,
we also
speculated about the fact that it's not just good for that and getting people with hands-on the product, but it's also good for them to have that presence to be able to talk face-to-face with other publishers and developers as well, and try to actually entice them to get on the platform too. Because, yes, we've got this fantastic product, but let's be real, like Stadia, in terms of a physical presence out there in the wider world, in the public, we only had those launch events that were in pockets, like very specific cities across the globe, really, that a lot of people don't have access to, despite what the masses tend to think. Like, for us to get to London is not easy. That is not easy. So when they host an event in London, per se, we're not able to attend something like that. Not the drop of a hat.
It's the wrong side of the country for a start. So we either have to drive, which is about a 4 or 5 hour drive, find somewhere to park. Then you got price of hotels. You've got, if we get the train, you got the price of trains, which aren't cheap in the UK. And
I know it's expensive to buy a train.
Yeah, it is. It's really expensive to buy a train. It's even harder to let someone actually let you drive it.
Yeah, you need the tracks.
But it's us to get to London is not actually a simple endeavour, and it's not cheap either.
Yeah, but
point I was trying to make there, sorry, is that at the end of the day, what I'm trying to sort of identify with this is that these events are where people who are like-minded do gather and travel from around the globe too, because it is a specific event that takes place at a specific time of year, not just a pop-up event or so on. So it allows Google to get, or to have the opportunity to have the Stadia team in there mingling amongst the likes of, your Capcoms, your Konamis, your Ubisofts, and so on and so forth, to be able to sort of show the people who are working on the products or are, on part of the business development team to actually get involved and check the product out themselves, so they can see firsthand how it performs. I'm not taking anything away from what Google and Stadia have been doing, because I'm sure when they're trying to make these business deals behind the scenes, they are obviously going to have the opportunities to show off the tech and to, you know, to obviously have those meetings. But to be able to have them en masse in a place which is localized and also is very much focused on something. There's something about the hype that's being generated there. There's something about like the general sort of atmosphere and how people are feeling anyway.
It's networking.
Yeah, it is networking.
There's one thing having someone's email address and emailing them or ringing them about this interesting project. It's another thing getting, after a long day of work of the showroom floor, just sitting down to a drink in the bar in your hotel, and there's thingy from Capcom.
But for anybody who goes to
drink with them, and then it's that personal connection.
That's true, but what I'm trying to say is there's also a difference between doing that as part of a business meeting organized and visiting someone's office, and doing it at an event where it is encouraged and is actively, you know, it's that's what it's designed for. It's like when you go to a football game, just as an idea, you become part of, you get involved in that atmosphere, and you know, you sort of get that mentality all of a sudden where you join in with the crowd, with the chanting and everything like that. You go to a convention, you have that same sort of excitement, that same sort of buzz around you, rather than visiting a place. Like, I don't get that same sort of feel when I walk into a game shop on the high street. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that's what I'm trying to go for there.
The interesting thing as well about the ESA is they're neutral. It's neutral ground. It's not run by a single publisher or developer. It's not run by a bunch of journalists who have got legacy relationships with a single platform and may have unconscious biases. The ESA is just like, we're providing this space, this event. If you're willing to fork up the money, you can be here.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about both of your points there, and I think to go back to yours, Tom, physical presence is something I've been a massive advocate of for Stadia since it launched, because if we break it down, since 2019 we had the pop-up places in London, Paris, LA, I think one of them was, and that was
like San Francisco.
That was like 3 days they were there for, and over a global expanse is nothing. Yeah. We've seen nothing on the high streets, albeit the kind of world got shut down a little bit, so we'll give them their due when that stands. But
I've seen a few billboards.
Have you?
Yeah, I've seen
Stadia billboards.
I'm sure I've seen Stadia billboards.
I don't think I've seen anything, but other than that, like pop-up stand, I've seen one at my place of work to like a demo stand. Nothing within like the game retail stores in the UK, GameSpots and supermarkets, nothing there. Obviously, we get bombarded with them on YouTube ads, but in terms of a physical presence, I don't think it can be understated what Tom's saying about being at these events. It gets your name recognised in the same conversation, and I think all these journalists who rock up at E3, and it's like their biggest time of the year to start writing stories and articles and feature pieces about technology and what's going on at these expos. You can just picture, if you rewind, if 2020 didn't all go to shit and everyone meets up and there's a big Stadia stand, you get journalist XYZ comes along. I'm here from IGN, GameSpot, Eurogame, wherever, and they go, there's a press pass premiere edition or something. They have their crazy E3 and they go back to the hotel, and what have they got? They've brought along their Xbox, their PlayStation, their Switch. They've lugged it along to the event because they have to cover and play these games when the demos drop. And they're playing Stadia, playing a AAA title in their hotel using the power of the cloud. Imagine how different the conversation could have went if Stadia were there, because you can't take a PS5 demo back to your hotel room because it hasn't came out yet. You can't do that, whereas the convenience of Stadia could have... And we mentioned it on previous podcasts about how the pandemic has actually had quite a big impact on journalists who usually travel all over the country, and they haven't left their home. So Stadia's actually had almost no use for them if they've had the console they review things on right by the side. But now it's coming back around, albeit in a digital format. Google have got to be looking at this. I mean, some of the backers who've already said they're going to be there: Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two, Warner Brothers, Koch Media, whatever they're called, and a bunch of others that they've promised there's more to come. If Stadia and Google are not in this conversation, the big, arguably probably one of the biggest digital game events of the summer, where are they at? Like, where is their presence? Because let's face it, everyone in the wider gaming world is not reading the community blog like we are every week. They're not getting YouTube ads coming through, and even then they probably skip the ad after 5 seconds. Where is the marketing that they've not done for the... It's coming up on the 2nd anniversary in a few months, guys, and I've seen nothing outside of YouTube ads. And I'm in that ecosystem.
Yeah, put it this way. If I wasn't in the Stadia ecosystem in the way I am, by the fact that I'm a content creator, I probably wouldn't be reading the blogs.
So...
I probably wouldn't even be looking for them dropping.
So they need to be there, right?
Yeah, I do. I think they do. They need to be there. In this big, whatever happened with happens with Summer Games Festival this year, whatever with E3, all the big temple things, cross-party, cross-platform events, Google need a presence, and I think they need a significant presence as well.
They need to remind people.
With Sony and Microsoft kind of taking a step back from E3, there's a chance for Stadia to take a step into the gap that they're leaving as well.
Xbox are there. They've confirmed
it's just
that.
Sony. It's just Sony who aren't.
Yeah.
Like, albeit, let's be honest, with it being a digital event, Nintendo is just going to be a direct that's timed within these 3 days. Xbox, they're all going to be just videos that are sent over to E3 to host on their YouTube channel and on their website.
It'd be interesting to see what they're doing outside of the press conference, like the show floor, what they're sort of like the booths and stuff, how they're going to address that.
But it's all virtual, so
I'm not sure it'll be anything like an original, like what you'd expect of an E3. I think it's going to be far more like the Summer of Gaming or the Games Fest or the Connects and stuff like that. It's just going to be essentially. I imagine it's going to be a live video stream with. There might be some studio-based stuff. They may have some socially distanced studio-based stuff, but it'll all be done digitally, remotely, that we can watch along.
I imagine just have more sort of things like there's going to be like more gameplay demo, like almost first looks of he's the new game working on with someone on the sticks while it's being commentating.
That's what I
sort of like the smaller stuff that if you're on the show floor, you might go check out the EA booth and get hands on the new FIFA, that sort of stuff. Yeah,
and that's what I think I would love to see. Because by the looks of the digital event, it's surely going to be just a scheduled event of Nintendo going at 11 a.m, Xbox are on at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and then in between that, the news websites will cover it with like interviews with people who work there. And what I would love to see is sandwiched in between all the Nintendo and other stuff, a Stadia Connect. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then afterwards IGN or Eurogamer, whoever, interview Phil Harrison, get some people out there, get John Justice out there and stuff, and have them just talking about how much we've learnt over the last year. Be human about it. Come out and stop hiding behind blog posts and press releases, and just come out and be there in an interview, talk about learning from their mistakes, the difficult decisions that were made, the future of games that are coming, and then shows some things to be excited for.
Address Stadia Games and Entertainment. This is your chance to set the record straight.
Yeah, and say the reason we did that was because of this. Because let's face it, outside of all the bashing articles and the announcement, there's nothing really more being said other than Twitter. And if you're silent, people run with silence and make up their own stories, especially when the nature of journalism at the moment isn't that keen on Stadia still. So use it as a platform. Use E3, where all eyes are on the games industry, as a platform to talk about how great your damn product is.
Yeah, and without resorting to just like the press speak as well, just be open, honest, and human about it, and go and just again, if it was you shut down Stadia Games and Entertainment for financial reasons, spell it out. Just spell it out. Yeah.
So to boil it all down, then, gentlemen, Tom. Do you think Stadia will be at E3 in some way, shape, or form this summer?
Yes, I actually do. I think we're going to see something along the lines of possibly a Phil Harrison style video clip, I suppose, in a way. We won't see anything more than maybe 10 to 15 minutes of what's coming to Stadia. I imagine it's going to be our Connect, dare I say it, just sent over to E3 and just say, like, here you go, crack on with it, play it in our slot. Yeah, that's all I'm really expecting. But yeah, I'm going to be hopeful this time. I'm going to turn the pessimism switch off, and just I'm going to be optimistic this time. I'm going to say yes. I think they will this year.
Richie?
I'm going to say yes as well. I don't think it's going to be what we want from them, but I think they will be there. And I also don't think we're going to find out till last minute because that's how Google handle things.
Yeah, it'll be like the minute before.
It'll be in a blog post like 2 days before they're going live or something.
Yeah, if I want them to be there, I really think it's necessary for them to remind people that there's still a thing and it works great, and there's the pros better than ever. And the titles, let's face it, the AAA titles at the moment are fantastic. There are no big games that have came out since November that aren't exclusive to another platform that I can think of that we need on the platform. It's great. And I honestly think all the influencers and a lot of the journalists out there don't actually realise the catalogue of games that are playable on Stadia right now.
No, because I think a lot of my impression of a lot of the journalists out there, they only know Stadia from the memes. They don't spend any time with the product, and they only cover it when basically they get told by the editor that someone needs to cover it. Yeah. I can almost imagine there's a sort of reluctance behind it, and then they just kind of just get through the article. They're not invested in giving Stadia a chance, really.
Yeah, I'd love to play like a little game where you get on the grid of all the big titles: Assassin's Creed, Rise Republic, Cyberpunk, Resident Evil, and just go down the mini grid and go PS5, PS4, Stadia, Xbox. Tick the box which you think is available. And I'd love to see how many just put crosses on all the Stadia ones and go, nope. It's like, yes, you can actually play that there. I can imagine Phil just showing up at the Ubisoft event maybe again for like a little cameo. At worst case scenario. But
Rise Republic is coming to Google Stadia.
See, now I'd like to see the Ubisoft event as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
That should be an as well thing.
Yeah. If they want to act like their own platform, they need to be their own platform.
Well, I think
do it.
E3 is almost ubiquitous to gaming nowadays anyway, so if you want to be taken seriously in video games, and bear in mind Stadia are very much a definite newcomer, they're still fighting for their place in the industry.
Yeah.
You've got to turn up, and you've got to turn up big. Show people what you're about.
What are the chances Amazon Luna are there in every single way, and Stadia just don't rock up? Could you imagine that? Well,
100% expect to see GeForce Now and Amazon Luna both there.
I think that's actually quite a good call, because I think I wonder whether Amazon would actually use that platform to launch Luna globally.
They must be due, right? We're coming up on second summer. Yeah.
Well, they're reaching out to Amazon Luna at the moment. They're reaching out to content creators. Some of the big ones. I know Kind of Funny did a
sponsored
stream. 3-hour sponsored stream.
Yeah.
They're the sort of people who are going to help sell your platform.
Yeah.
And on the sponsored stream, they did speak very, very highly of Luna. No latency. They were playing Immortals Phoenix Rising. No latency. They were thrilled with the menu. The game catalogue was all obviously sponsored stream, so take it with a pinch of salt. But it does make you think, if Stadia would just pay these people to do, like we saw a few sponsors with the Good Stuff event. Xavier Woods and stuff were out there, Lamar Wilson, and yet there's too much quiet right between things happening. It's just silent on the Western Front. And
for me, I use the word they need to fight for their place in the industry. I think it is. They need to fight for. They've come out. It hasn't. The initial launch, this launch year and a half, hasn't went to plan for Stadia. They've become a bit of a meme. They need to fight if they want to be taken seriously in the industry. The journalists aren't going to gift you that. That's clear at this point.
Yeah.
If you want to be taken seriously, you need to go out there. You need to show what you can do. And the thing is, it's a good product. That's the frustrating thing, is they're just...
Yeah. Well, that would be the big irony, wouldn't it? If Luna come out fresh out the gate and just basically shit all over all the work Stadia's done by just having a fresh... We're not in beta anymore. We're now live to the world. Play these great titles. We've got a subscription model. And then all the good stuff that clearly works on Stadia, arguably better, just gets swept under the rug because then they don't have a presence to combat it and say, well, what Luna's doing, if you really like that, we do kind of the same thing, but you can actually own your games rather than being subscribed.
I predicted that Amazon Luna would learn from Stadia's mistakes when that was first announced, and I think they have so far.
Yep. Time will tell.
Stadia still don't feel like they are fully learning from their mistakes.
Well, it's always quiet. That's the problem. So
I
guess we'll wait and find out.
That is by far the biggest mistake they've made. They're too quiet.
Maybe they'll learn from Stadia and get Resident Evil on their platform, because next story of the week is Resident Evil, or we should say Capcom, announced this past week that we're having a brand new showcase of Resident Evil Village coming soon. So that is 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. UK time. So if you want to stay up a little bit later and be scared just before you go to bed, Thursday, 15th of April, 11 p.m. UK time, they're going to do a live stream revealing some news on a new demo, promised features for the next-gen iterations of the platform for the game, and a couple more details around probably, I'd imagine, DLC, roadmap kind of stuff, thought you'd see. But after finishing Biohazard, gentlemen, and all of us having pre-ordered the premiere for Resident Evil Village, I'm excited for this. I'm intrigued to know. Now I know the kind of lore behind 7 and all the stuff that goes on. This story then leads into this, so I'm intrigued more than I ever have been, I think. New environment, new spooky things happening. Wonder if there's more blob monsters kicking around, scare the living shit out of me. The F series.
We won't have any spoilers here, but it means something. Maybe.
What would you do if it was the T series and they're trying to link this back to the original, like with the T virus?
We'll see.
Who knows?
I'm very interested to see how tall this lady is, how she gets through doorways conveniently. I feel like this is more vampires and werewolves from what we've seen from the early trailers. So quite a deviation from the zombies and the Baker family that we have seen. So yeah, I've kind of not really been paying that much attention, but having really actually enjoyed my time with 7, even though it was fear-inducing, I'm really excited now about Village, because we've got less than a month to wait now. So go check that out. This coming Thursday over on Capcom's YouTube channel, no doubt as well. Resident Evil Village Showcase. And there's the big tall lady. She's like 7 foot something, right?
9'6".
How many outcasts as tall was she again?
Oh, it was
many outcasts.
Many outcasts as tall over on Twitter. Final news story of the week, ladies and gentlemen. We have a fix for FIFA 21. So we've not covered it on the podcast before, but some of you out there tagging EA, tagging Google in this, we've seen it with a couple of games where actually the Stadia variant suffers when problems go awry. No one seems to want to listen to getting around to fixing it. We've seen it with Outriders. This last week, I've seen loads of people tweet about little glitches and issues, end-game content. I think, is it the Outriders people are not getting their pre-order bonuses, from what I remember? And Square Enix
sure about that
and
one.
stuff.
I missed that one.
I've seen a couple of people tweet about it. I don't think they get the pre-order bonuses. But the FIFA one is a more interesting one because it's the save issues. And we've never really contemplated this, but obviously all of our save files are in the cloud. And there's a couple of people on Stadia have basically reported that when they go in, the save files for like career mode and the personal preference settings, they just ain't there anymore. They're just gone. And in the cloud, it's not like you can check a memory card or check your system storage. It's just gone.
You can't back up your saves. I think that's problematic.
Yeah, because they're in the cloud, and it's something that I've never really even considered. But yeah, if you go in and they're not there, then what do you do? And we've all probably had that, right? In with past experiences where you go and play a game, the save file's gone, corrupted, damaged, whatever. Your sister's deleted it, and you're just kind of so deflated that I can imagine anyone who's lost like a FIFA career save file that might be 2 or 3 seasons deep, and you open up the game, you just look at that menu screen and just go, I don't want to play anymore. I'm so just like,
it's so deflating when you've I think I've had stretches where games I've just dropped out of where I think we might have covered this on a show before, where you've been playing the game for a couple of hours, then for whatever reason, maybe there's a power cut and you haven't saved anywhere, you go back up, it's like, I really can't be bothered to play through all that again, and then you just drop out.
Yeah. My biggest one was with Max Payne. I think I got it for one of my birthdays many years ago. Played probably my entire afternoon of my birthday, 5-6 hours worth.
Yeah.
Next day, went back, no save file. Never touched the game. Never touched the game again.
Right. Lives up to its name then.
Never have. Maybe never will, because one, it's old and janky by today's standards, but two, that just totally pulled the rug out from under me. So yes,
you just feel feel so deflated when that happens.
Yeah. So thankfully though, Grace doing the Lord's work out there. Hi everyone. We understand how frustrating this situation can be. We're aware of the issue with career saved games. We've been in touch with EA, who is in the process of rolling out a fix next week. We'll confirm an exact date as soon as we can. Thanks for your patience. And if further assistance for FIFA 21 is needed, I kindly suggest contacting EA directly. This is another habit on Twitter where Stadia often just point everything in the direction of the developers. Get in touch with the devs. Get in touch with the devs.
Yeah.
Stadia needs to take some like acknowledgement and what's the word I'm looking for? Ownership, responsibility of this, because it's on their platform and no one else is having this problem. So it's all well and good saying yes, obviously tag the developers in it as well.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, 2K and whoever it is. Where the hell's our Mafia game? Still came out in September to every other platform. But yes, obviously EA are looking into it, so fingers crossed we'll see a fix rolled out for FIFA 21. Hopefully before FIFA 22 comes, whenever that may be. But yeah, it is something that's very niche to Stadia, and I completely see from the developer standpoint, like the harsh reality is they are not going to prioritize Stadia. We saw it with Cyberpunk. Thankfully it worked on Stadia, but reality is, as you go down the pecking order and you've got only so many members of your team to fix things and get patches sorted, and on that long list, when you've got 140 million people on PlayStation, Xbox and Nintendo Switch, Stadia isn't going to be a priority in fixing the little bugs and glitches, unfortunately. It should be. We all pay the same price, sometimes if not more, but the reality is it has to come down to just sheer manpower and how many staff you have to look into these issues.
From EA's perspective, if the game is working on all other platforms and not working on Stadia, then chances are the people playing on Stadia are much more likely to buy on a different platform next time round. I don't think EA will look at it like they might be losing customers, too many customers on it. It's just moving where the customers will buy from, and EA, quite frankly, won't care what platform you buy the game on.
That's a good point.
So this is why Stadia for me, I agree with you, Chris. This is where Stadia need to take responsibility, because it's your platform that's getting damaged, not for EA's reputation.
Yeah, that's another great point. Yeah, people might just deviate to elsewhere, or then it may impact the purchasing decision next time round. Because if you're going to potentially lose it again, and Stadia are going to go, just contact EA, then you need, again, it's back to the E3 conversation. You just need to take ownership of your platform that you've created. You need to talk about it positively and take on board everything that's happening.
I just want to clarify as well, this isn't a dig at like the community team with Grace and Chris. This is Google, Stadia higher up than them that need to be working better with the developers to one, not have these issues full stop, and two, resolve them quickly when they happen. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have an update on that when it is fixed. Fingers crossed, everyone who is playing FIFA still, myself included, that isn't going to happen to me. I'll definitely be a lot more vocal for those FIFA fans out there if it happens to me. Tom, how's your FIFA season going? You're getting quite in there in the pro seasons.
I managed to finish one season off. Little did I know, I should have checked. It's my own fault, really. I should have checked the achievements prior to doing that, because it turns out by playing through one season as a pro, it didn't actually unlock anything for me. I, for some reason, thought it might do. It's actually very much heavily focused on the Volta football and the FIFA Ultimate Tournament modes as well. So, Ultimate Team, sorry.
I haven't even tried Volta.
Yeah, I might give Volta a shot, but I've put FIFA on hold at the moment while I'm playing some other stuff on the side.
Ooh.
Yeah, same.
Side note to that, actually, Tom. FIFA and the Razer Kishi, match made in heaven.
Brilliant, isn't it?
I've played we said before we even got FIFA that it's the perfect game for when you have 10, 15, 20 minutes spare to just jump in, play a game, do some transfers, do some training with your squad, shut everything down, go about your day. That paired with the Razer Kishi, perfect. Just jump in, bash out a game, shut everything down, unhook your phone, back in your pocket, you're on the move. Phenomenal, love it. Razer Kishi, 100% recommend it. Fantastic, works so well. It just turns your Stadia into a Nintendo Switch. It does it so well. And the keys, the triggers, the buttons, love it. Definitely recommend it for anyone who's thinking about one. And if you're in the UK, like myself, there was a promotion with one of the mobile companies where a lot of people got one free with a Samsung upgrade. A lot of people out there who don't know anything about gaming and just got a free Kishi and they've just whacked it on Facebook Marketplace to get rid. So if you're in the market for one, don't go direct. Look on Facebook, look on local eBay or whatever local trade things you've got, because I picked mine up for £35 as opposed to 80. So
yeah, I need to try and get myself one, because I very much like the concept. I very much am against the price of it.
Yeah. Telling you, check it out. There's so many I don't know, like middle-aged women out there who got one with their Samsung and then they've gave it to their kids and the kids have looked at it and went, I don't know what to do with that, mum and dad. And they just sat there with this thing that has like a gaming controller in front and they just whack it on Facebook for whatever the recommended price. So if you're in the market for one, yeah, if you're in the market for one, you're in the UK, just keep your eyes on social places, because I got mine for less than half price, brand new, unopened. Yeah. Fantastic. Because like Richie, I was never going to pay 80 quid for it. Yeah, too much. But definitely recommended. And that's it, gentlemen. That brings us to a close for the Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 81, creeping ever so closer to that magic 100 mark. I did want to give a massive shout out to our YouTube membership program once again before we wrap up today. Remember, that's just gone live, so you can click the little join button down below if you're watching this on our YouTube channel and support the channel and us three gentlemen and the Stadia community that little bit more from as little as 99 pence as our founders tier. We do have bronze, silver and gold, and there is nothing kept behind any tier, so just look at the tiers, pick which one best suits your needs use case, and support us that little bit more, like the Fabled Alpaca, Raging Jacob, Ashley, GRS, Kumnar, Hollypops, and Steve Nelson have already signed up to that program. You guys get a lovely little Premier Edition badge next to your name in the chat whenever we go live. And over the coming months, that will evolve into more controllers. And I think if we put the mighty Wasabi controller, Tom, as the furthest out there, is that the favourite?
No, the nice Founder controller is one of the last ones that you can get currently. We do have room to add more down the line as well, but obviously, as we are only limited to the number of controllers that we have in the Stadia ecosystem so far, we're looking to evolve that, so we'll have a think about how we can best do that in the coming weeks.
Is Wasabi the one they'll have for the longest? Is that what I'm thinking?
Wasabi is the one that will have the longest, between 3 and 6 months, correct?
That's what I was thinking of. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
And we're going to have loads of awesome new content dropping. Like Richie's Sounds of Stadia SideQuest show, you do get that up to 5 days early for being a member of our YouTube channel or a patron over at patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. What was our mission this week, Richie?
We were talking about game preservation in the light of Sony closing down the PS3 and the the Vita stores.
What do you call it? What do you call it? Disrespect, the disrespect shown
towards
the...
It's a dead platform, Chris. It's a dead platform.
Vita means life, Richie. Vita means life. It will live on.
Then why are they trying to kill it?
Oh, they killed it long ago by not supporting it. But
anyway, and it's about how Stadia or cloud platforms in general, how can that be going forward in terms of game preservation?
Go check that out. If you are a member, you get it early. If you're not, you get it on Friday. And with that, we bring it to an end of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Don't forget to check out Killer Queen Black this coming Thursday on the channel with the devs and some giveaways as well. So if you haven't got the game yet, you could be in a chance to win. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Have a great week, everyone. Game on.